fellow readers, I'm Hannah Blackwell, and today I want to go over the top 10 books that I want to read before the end of the year. Thank you so much for joining me today for this video. I am excited to go over all of these books with you. These are the books that I know, I swear to you, I know that I'm going to be reading these before the end of the year. I know, I will do it. These books are super high priority for me. They are the books that I really want to get to. Some of them are even some book club books. Some of them are just some end of series books that I want to finish off so I can be done with certain series. So I want to go over these with you today and take a look at the top 10 books that I need to finish, will finish, guarantee to you will finish before the end of the year. Before we get into this list, I want to go ahead and remind you that if you have not already subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and click the like button. It really helps out my channel. Let me know down below, what is the book that you need to get to before the end of this year? I'm also going to have all of my socials linked down below, including my Goodreads, Twitter, Instagram, and my TikTok as well, so that you could follow me on those social media platforms if you so choose. I would love to see you there. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into this. The first book on my end of the year TBR is Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. If you've been following me for any amount of time, really, you've probably heard me talk about this book because I need to read it. I was actually supposed to be reading that this month, and yeah, no, it has not happened yet because I have hit a fantasy slump. Epic fantasy isn't happening, slow books not happening. I'm in it for the romance, I'm in it for the thrillers, I'm in it for the horrors, I'm in it for the novellas, but apparently no, not long fantasy books. We'll see what happens. Maybe I will get to this in September. I truly hope so, but it will definitely, no question, happen before the end of the year. This book follows Sorsha, and Sorsha's brothers have been cursed by an enchantress, and she needs to break that curse. It is a fantasy romance with, I'm imagining, lighter on the romance, fantasy tale that's like a historic fantasy. So it's got a light magic system. It's kind of like a folk magic type system set in medieval Scotland. And I love these types of books. I have loved what I've read from Juliette Marillier so far. So I'm definitely excited to read this because from what I hear from most fellow booktubers, this is her best book. Next on this list, I have something from a completely different genre, and that is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This book is set in the same neighborhood, but in a different decade, from the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. So this is set in the 80s, but in the same neighborhood as that book. And I love that book. That was a 5-star horror for me, and so I definitely want to read more. And I hear from a lot of Grady Hendrix readers that this is one of his top tier best books. This is about a girl whose best friend is possessed, and it's about their friendship, and there's apparently some fairly horrific, disgusting scenes in here, and I'm on board. I want to read this probably, I'm guessing, in October, because that just feels right to me. But yeah, I can't wait to read this. I mean, come on, it says be kind, rewind. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I'm a technically 80s baby, but I don't have memories from the 80s, but I totally remember VCRs. There's some serious nostalgia there for me, so yeah, I cannot wait to pick this book up. Another spooky read, but probably more in the thriller vein, is Ruth Ware's The Turn of the Key. I have not read anything by Ruth Ware yet, and that's probably a big shame because I'm trying to get more into thrillers, and I see her everywhere, and I still haven't picked up a single book by her, but I own 3 of them. I just haven't picked any of them up. This is actually my local book club's pick for September, so I know 100% I will be reading it in September, and I cannot wait to pick it up. This book is a haunted house story, I believe, possibly. Yeah, some kind of like haunted house story, possibly, but like about like a smart house. But I mean, I know nothing. I know nothing about this. I know it has gothic vibes, and that it is kind of like a retelling of The Turn of the Screw, but like modernized. So I'm down for it. I'm looking forward to reading it, and I will be reading this book in September, and I will let you know my thoughts as soon as I do. Next on this list is a series continuation, and that's Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. I just finished Ship of Magic in July, and I loved it so much, and this is the second book in that series. So this is the second book in the second trilogy in the Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb, and this specific trilogy is about a family of live ship traders. Live ships basically come alive once a third consecutive head of the family dies on the ship, and then they legit come alive, and there are like magical serpents, and there are pirates, and it's a really cool book with a lot of family drama and a lot of hateable, likable, hate to like characters in this book. I'm looking forward to continuing on. Robin Hobb is amazing. I've loved every book I've read from her so far, and I'm just looking forward to continuing on in the Realm of the Elderlings. The fourth book on this series has a bookmark in it because my husband is reading it currently, and that is The Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie. This is the third book in his first Law trilogy, and I think that there is actually, like 3 books in this trilogy, and then there's 3 standalones, and then another trilogy, I think, all set in the same world. But anyway, this is the third book, like the final book in the first trilogy. And so this follows a bunch of really interesting characters, including a violent barbarian, a lovable torturer, and basically a total jerk of a knight, and their adventures. The first book in the series is called The Blade Itself, and it is basically like a setup for the rest of the trilogy, basically getting the band together for a quest. And there is some pretty cool elemental magic in this series as well. It is a grimdark series, but I would say it's like an easy to read grimdark series. This is like if Brandon Sanderson and George R. R. Martin had a baby. That's how I see Joe Abercrombie's writing, because it is fast-paced and easy to read like Brandon Sanderson, but it's got the grimdark material and character work, but even better character work like George R. R. Martin. You know what I'm trying to say, I hope. But yeah, I'm really liking this series. I have loved reading Joe Abercrombie so far. We'll see if this gets 5 stars. The first 2 books got 4.5 stars. So he's like right there for me. The next book is actually 2 books, and that is The Girl in the Tower and The Winter of the Witch. These are books 2 and 3 in the Winter Night trilogy. The first book in the series is The Bear and the Nightingale. It's written by Catherine Arden, and this is a historical folk magic fantasy story about a girl called Vassia, and she starts the first book as a little girl and then grows up through the first book and then into the second book. And it's a few different Russian folk tellings, just retellings of those folk stories. And it's beautifully written, extremely atmospheric. It makes you feel cold to the bone, and so I will probably be rereading these in November when I'm really wanting to get into the cold season, so November or December. And I loved The Bear and the Nightingale. I've actually already read it twice, and so I cannot wait to continue on. It just hasn't happened because I really want to read these when I'm cold or when I'm wanting to feel cold, if you know what I mean, to get me into the winter season, to get me into the winter mood. So I will be continuing on with these books for sure towards the end of the year, and hopefully just go ahead and finish both of them. So I have 3 more books in this video, and the next book is Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. We will be reading this book for my book club, Femmes, Afictionados, and in that book club we read adult fantasy books written by female authors. So this is the first book for our new book club, and it is the pick for August and September. So our book club is going to be doing a live show in the beginning of October. The exact date and time is to be decided, but I will update you as soon as I know. And so I will definitely be reading this book in September. I had it on my August TBR, but just kind of as like a prep and a maybe. Like I just want to start it in August and continue on. So I should hopefully be able to start it by the end of August, but I still have all of September to read it as well. This is a epic fantasy story about dragon riders. I think that there's like a chosen one trope, and I have heard nothing but wonderful things about it, so I can't wait to get into it. The second to last is probably not at all a surprise to you, but it's Ruin by John Gwynne. This is the third book in John Gwynne's The Faithful and the Fallen quartet. I have read the first two books, Malice and Valor, and I enjoyed both of them immensely, and so I cannot wait to continue on. I hear that this is when things really kick off, and that really makes sense based on how we left things off in Valor. So I hear things kick off and get crazy. There may or may not be some kind of big twist about to happen, and I cannot wait. Some people say Ruin is their favorite in the series, but I think the majority say Wrath is, and Wrath is the fourth book in the series. So I can't wait to get into this. I have a feeling that once I read this, though, I'm just going to want to pick up Wrath, so I'm a little bit worried. But yeah, I can't wait to see what happens. So far, I've been heartbroken by this series, and I've loved the adventure. I love the world building. I love the characters. I've had some issues with the female characters. I feel like this book was very clearly written by a man because the female characters are so cliche, I should say, and not cliche in a good way. So I just think, from what I've heard, he gets better with that throughout his series and throughout time, so that's great to hear. But besides that being kind of a downer, other than that, I've absolutely loved this series, and I cannot wait to continue on. Finally, last but certainly not least, is my first ever Brom. I've never read from Brom before. He is an illustrator and an author who writes horror books, and this one is called Slufit, and he's also written a few others that I'm interested in, such as Krampus, but I really am down for the witchy vibes, and this gives me, if you have ever seen The Witch, but it's like a VV Witch, the movie, I've heard that this has those types of vibes. I recently watched a really great review of this. Riley Marie talked about it in a recent video. I'll link that if I can find that down below. But that this has some really cool kind of like witchy vibes. It's set in like Puritan society, and the illustrations are amazing. So you can see here's this girl, and she's dressed like very Puritan but creepy. So just to give you an idea of the illustrations, they are amazing but super creepy. Yeah. So and I don't know if you saw this, but the witch on the cover has hooves. Creepy, huh? Anyway, I cannot wait to read this, and I will be reading this either end of September or October. I'm not sure. But I cannot wait to get to it because I love those like creepy, haunted, like Puritan witch vibes, like Puritan society witch vibes I'm really into. I also want to read The Year of the Witching, but that's not on this list. But because, hello, these are not all of the books that I want to read this year before the end of the year. I mean, we have 4.5 more months left. So these are just like the big top 10. But anyway, I cannot wait to get to my first Brom and see how I like his writing. I've heard great things, but like I said, I've never read from him before. It's just giving me those vibes that I really like to see in October. So I think in terms of the atmosphere and vibes, which I am a very atmospheric, like writing and character first type of reader. So I think that this is going to really be fun for me to read. So I hope you guys liked this video. I had a lot of fun filming it. I had a lot of fun thinking about some of the books that I cannot wait to get to. Like I said, this is not an extensive list. There are a whole bunch of other books that I also want to get to before the end of the year, but these are just some big ones that came to mind immediately when I thought about doing this video. Let me know down below in the comment section, what are some books that you really want to get to before the end of the year? And if you like this video, please go ahead and click the like button as well. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing to my channel. You can click the notification bell if you want to be notified every time I post new videos. And as always, I will have all of my social media linked down below, including my Goodreads, Twitter, Instagram, and my TikTok. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, keep reading and living your best life.
Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes